Welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophia, pilot into the universe of Chinese. Let's continue exploring ocean industrial age concepts. 解释 is today's expression. And when we unpack that, we can cut it into so many pieces. And in a way, 解释, explain, is a Chinese way to say cutting, to dissect things, and to, release originally also means to investigate, to kind of sort out the relationship between things. So let's go into each one. On the top, the white color is simplified, and then the kind of beige color is the traditional. And you can see the difference here resides in here. And that's the most complicated part that I'm going to try to explain. And you can see I pasted extra things as a supplement knowledge, because this is not something that I quite spent some time to understand what we really looking at, because history or the evolution of Chinese character, as you can see here, change over time. And when I was born into simplified, I kind of lose a lot of the original intention, meaning packed into this. 解释 in today's simplified Chinese, it's hard to explain what that is. But especially 是, I guess 解 you can still see here means horn. We have a knife on top of the ox, and that means you are cutting, you're kind of a butchering process of the ox. And that's the way, by motion of this butchering process, to show you're dissecting things, you're separating them into pieces. Now, 是 is a lot more complicated, and we have to trace back down to several different versions to release that. So I guess I already explained what 解 is about. Just a little bit more about the horn symbol. 角 is a today's, in our today's language. It sometimes means angle of things, sometimes means corner of things. And Chinese use the same character to mean that we understand. It's something about this. So how Chinese explains that? From the animal horn first. That the bottom here is kind of trying to depict the horn shape with this symbol, and that's scales on the horn. So that's the texture of a horn. The top looks like a profile view of a human kind of squatting over there. But okay, if we trace even further back to that character, this is not a person. It's not about the person at the pinpoint of the horn. It's the shape of the horn that has this sharp angle. So eventually, the shape of the horn is almost like a stand-alone image, and there is no point of just something serve the purpose of showing the shape of the horn. It doesn't really sit. Doesn't really be economical to exist in the language. So because human figure looks similar to the horn, so eventually we just use the human figure, and that kind of wipe out the original origin of where it's a shape came from. So it gets a little bit confusing there. But shape and the texture of the horn is the two attributes. And Chinese use that to create the horn concept, and the knife over ox to explain the butchering. We use knife next to the horn, to the ox, to represent any kind of butchering, supposedly, animal meat, right? Okay, and then we use a horn next to it because supposedly when a butcher cut, like dissect the ox, the first thing they cut off is the horns. So that, I don't know if there happen to be some butcher professionals. Please let me know, confirm if that's the case. But that's how Chinese express dissect, by having this butchering process and the horn together. Now, 是 is the main course today. It's so complicated. Okay, the left side is 变. But in today's lingo, you see, simplified traditional, they convert them to 采. Okay, 采 means gathering fruit from a tree that came from this icon. Bottom is a tree, canopy, root, trunk, right? The top is the three-finger hand symbol. And so we simply see, like from observer point of view, that somebody is picking from the top of a tree. So supposedly it's a fruit tree. So it's a hunter-gatherer society's common scenery, right? People get food from the tree. And that's the contemporary version of that. However, if we look at Seal script language 2,000 years ago, it's slightly different, but kind of look similar, but slightly different character. And I mean, things like that happen. We replace the concept with something like, I guess, more commonly used, because this gathering can also make sense here if we explain it with a contemporary, almost like you're gathering evidence, sampling, right? And then you try to build up your model, something like that. But the original meaning is Paul reading. Again, it's from hunter-gatherer society's basic survival skill. It's about hunters being able to identify correctly what's the animal's footprint in the mud. And this footprint is expressed by the tilted right corner, which we use that as a Chinese hand, five-finger hand symbol, how to say, differentiator, that we have this hair symbol that's kind of looking the same. And so a tilted left is hair, tilted right is the hand. And by tilting it right, it's hand, but it's animal hand. It's a paw. So like these separated parts is a mimicking of what an animal's paw would look. It's probably a compact or composed of all kinds of different variety of animals' paw footprint. Or it could be a bird as well, right? Like a bird have a different, distinctly different footprint. I mean, paw print or claw print. All right, so this paw reading, we can imagine, is life critical skills because you have to correctly identify as a predator or prey, as a hunter, right? So this discerning of the paws is the left side. It doesn't mean gather evidence. It means you reading into the footprint. Actually, it's a small sample size. You just read from tiny little bit of traces and try to detect what the whole animal is, right? From a tiny footprint to deduce what the full thing is. Okay, now the right side is the complicated part. The top is horizontal eyeball. We know mostly Chinese eyeball is verticalized to save space, but in this case, it's horizontal. And it could be not a regular eyeball, meaning actually this eyeball, look at here, right? It's kind of discerning, kind of observing eyes. And the whole thing means almost like a detective work in today's, I guess, criminal versus the detective dynamic. So the bottom is the criminal. In today's lingo, okay, ancient times is slightly different. So ancient times probably is more like a robbery type of crime because it's not really about homicide, things like that. It's more about getting your wealth, so stealing, right? And this eyeball means the government officials trying to detect, trying to find out who is committing crime. Okay, the bottom is the crime symbol, but you can see in traditional, it's actually this character, which is Xin, which means fortunate. And fortunate is expressed by escaping. So see here, it's like a big stride person with a bended head. That means that person is running toward a different direction. Okay, this is a new occurrence to me that Chinese, like this human figure, is leftward facing. By default, Chinese oriented toward the left. So if you're facing the left, you meaning it's going forward. Versus if the head bending toward the right side, that means backward, tracking back. So we use that character to mean escape. You're not moving forward where you're supposed to go. You're actually going away from a trajectory, your kind of escape. Then the bottom is like this. It's a Chinese complicated way. Well, not exactly complicated, the right amount of abstraction. It's a Chinese way to say die ahead of your time. So it's almost like an infant fatality rate. I mean, today we use a metric rate to measure how well this nation's health system is. But here in ancient times, I guess babies die is a common thing. I mean, mothers give birth for so many. That's why ancient times, right? You have a way higher birth rate because the fertility rate is super high. So this, if you can escape your one possibility, actually in ancient times is a higher possibility, way higher than today, then you're fortunate. So Chinese making you're lucky, you're fortunate from you escape early death concept. So that's what here means. And that doesn't make sense when we see, okay, the right side actually means detective work to find out who is a criminal. And that if this is a fortunate, like you're detecting who is fortunate, it's not making sense, right? And in fact, this is another similar looking character, but meaning totally different. Here, this character is made of the big concept. You see, it's missing this tilted head. So it doesn't mean escaping. It means big. Big concept Chinese made came from the relative term of bigger. It's made of these two sides combined by a horizontal line. So here is a little bit distorted version or standardized, rectangularized version that is kind of wipe out the original meaning of these two curves. So these two curvatures combined by one horizontal line here, meaning you double something together. So each part, I mean, after they combine together, guaranteed is bigger than the original pieces. So we use that to express big eventually. We wipe out the relativity, make it absolute. But big actually means bigger. Okay. And then the bottom is 干, meaning doing. In today's world, it means doing, means acting, means using probably with a certain velocity and force in it. And God could be, we can interpret here as almost like be a little bit more aggressive, like aggressively doing something. So when we have a big aggressively doing something, and that's a Chinese way, ancient times to mean it's criminal in today's lingo. Because if as an individual, you're stepping out of your boundary, what you're supposed to do, then you're committing something, or like you're getting a bigger share than what you're supposed to have by, I guess, stealing or robbery, however ways that you get more resources supposed to be allotted to you legally, right? Then that's like illegal activity. So the eyeball looking for such outlaws, and that's what this right side is about. So it's an ancient detective work. Detective and Paul reading both together means you're putting on the detective's hat, trying to find out the cause and effect, the reasoning, from the few clues you have, you try to, thinking and reasoning to get to the conclusion about who committed a crime, right? Something like that. And eventually, Chinese use this one character to refer to Buddhism, because Buddhism is a way to explain the world based on suffering. Buddhism basically lower your expectation of what your life's experience to its suffering. Once you accept that, you can release, you can feel, you can let go things. And so this detective hat means you're trying to understand something. And once you understand it, you can let go, you can release it. And together you dissect, you separate things, and then you can, as a detective, find out what that original, like who caused what, right? And then you can release it. You can kind of say, now I get it, I understand it. Even for unexplainable things, once you accept it's unexplainable or uncertain or something like that, then you feel a release. Like don't even fight like that. So dissect and release together in Chinese is a Japanese scholar's translation to explain. And thank you for tuning into the very end to hear me explain what explain is in Chinese. Thank you for your time. See you another day.